Hello, I'm Malak S. I'm from Muslim University. I'm going to read from 246 to 253 from Harry and the Deathly Hallows, Chapter 13. The Muggle-born Registration Commission. "Ah, Mathilda," said Umbridge, looking at Hermione. "Travis sent you, did he?" Yes," squeaked Hermione. "Good, you'll do perfectly well." Umbridge spoke to the wizard in black and gold. "That's that problem solved, Minister. If Mathilda can be spared for record keeping, we shall be able to start straight away." She consulted her clipboard. 10 people today, and one of them the wife of a ministry employee. Even here, in the heart of the ministry. She stepped into the lift beside Hermione, as did the two wizards who had been listening to Umbridge's conversation with the minister. We'll go straight down, Mathilda. You'll find everything you need in the courtroom." "Good morning, Albert. Aren't you getting out?" Yes, of course," said Harry in Runcorn's deep voice. Harry stepped out of the lift. The golden grills changed shut behind him. Glancing over his shoulder, Harry saw Hermione's anxious face sinking back out of sight. A tall wizard on either side of her, Umbridge's velvet hair bow level with her shoulder. "What brings you up here, Runcorn?" asked the new Minister of Magic. His long black hair and beard were streaked with silver, and a great overhanging forehead shadowed his glinting eyes, putting Harry in mind of a crab looking out from beneath a rock. "Needed a quick word with." Harry hesitated for a fraction of a second. "Arthur Weasley. Someone said he was up on level 1. "Ah," said Pious Thickness. "He has been caught having contact with an undesirable?" "No," said Harry, his throat dry. "No, nothing like that." "Oh, well, it's only a matter of time," said Thickness. "If you ask me, the blood traitors are as bad as mudbloods. Good day, Runcorn." "Good day, Minister." Harry watched Thickness march away along the thickly corrupted corridor. The moment the minister had passed out of sight, Harry tugged the invisibility cloak out from under his heavy black cloak, threw it over himself, and set off along the corridor in the opposite direction. Runcorn was so tall that Harry was forced to stoop to make sure his big feet were hidden. Panic pulsed in the pit of his stomach as he passed gleaming wooden door after gleaming wooden door, each bearing a small plaque with the owner's name and occupation upon it. The might of the ministry, its complexity, its impenetrability, seemed to force itself upon him, so that the plan he had been carefully concocting with Ron and Hermione over the past 4 weeks, laughably childish. They had concentrated all their efforts on getting inside without being dedicated. They had not given a moment's thought to what they would do if they were forced to separate. Now Hermione, one was stuck on court proceedings, which would undoubtedly last hours. Ron was struggling to do magic that Harry was sure was beyond him. A woman's liberty possibly depending on the custom, and Harry, was wandering around on the top floor when he knew perfectly well that his quarry had just gone down in the lift. He stopped walking, leaned against the wall, and tried to decide what to do. The silence pressed upon him. There was no bustling or talk or swift footsteps here. The purple-carpeted corridors were as hushed as though the Muffalato charm had been cast over the place. Her office must be up here, Harry thought. It seemed most unlikely that Umbridge would keep her jewelry in her office, but on the other hand, it seemed foolish not to search it, to make sure. He therefore set off along the corridor again, passing nobody but a frowning wizard who was murmuring instructions to a quill that floated in front of him, scribbling on a trail of parchment. Now paying attention to the names on the doors, Harry turned the corner. Halfway along the next corridor, he emerged into a wide, open space where a dozen witches and wizards sat in rows at small desks, not unlike school desks, though much more highly polished and free from graffiti. Harry paused to watch them, for the effect was quite mesmerizing. They were all waving and twiddling their wands in unison, and squares of colored paper were flying in every direction like little pink kitties. After a few seconds, Harry realized that there was a rhythm to the proceedings, that the papers all formed the same pattern, and after a few more seconds, he realized that what he was watching was the creation of pamphlets. That the paper squares were pages, which, when assembled, folded, and magicked into place, fell into neat stacks beside each witch or wizard. Harry crept closer, although the workers were so intent on what they were going to do, that he doubted they would notice a carpet-muffled footstep, and he slid a completed pamphlet from the pile beside a young witch. He examined it beneath the invisibility clock. Its pink cover was emblazoned with a golden title, Mudblood and the Dangers They Pose to a Peaceful Pure Blood Society. Beneath the title was a picture of a red rose with a simpering face in the middle of its petals, being strangled by a green weed with fangs and skull. There was no author's name upon the pamphlet, but again the scars on the back of his right hand seemed to tingle as he examined it. Then the young witch beside him confirmed his suspicion as she said, still waving and twirling her wand, "Will the old hag be interrogating Mudbloods all day? Does anyone know?" "Careful," said the wizard beside her, glancing around nervously. One of his bags slipped and fell to the floor. "What? Has she got magic ears as well as an eye now?" The witch glanced toward the shining mahogany door facing the space full of pamphlet makers. Harry looked too, and rage reared in him like a snake. Where there might have been a peephole on a Muggle front door, a large round eye with a bright blue iris had been set into the wood, an eye that was shockingly familiar to anybody who had known Alistair Moody. For a split second, Harry forgot where he was and what he was doing there. He even forgot that he was invisible. He strode straight over to the door to examine the eye. It was not moving. It gazed blindly upward, frozen. The plaque beneath it read, "Dolores Umbridge, Senior Under Secretary to the Minister." Below that, a slightly shinier new plaque read, Head of the Muggleborn Registration Commission. Harry looked back at the dozen pamphlet makers. Though they were intent upon their work, he could hardly suppose that they would not notice if the door of an empty office opened in front of them. He therefore withdrew from an inner pocket an odd object with little waving legs and a rubber bulbed horn of a body. Crouching down beneath the clock, he placed the decoy detonator on the ground. It scuttled away at once through the legs of the witches and the wizards in front of him. A few moments later, during which Harry waited with his hand upon the doorknob, there came a loud bang, and a great deal of acrid black smoke billowed from a corner. The young witch in the front now shrieked. Pink pages flew everywhere, and she and her followers jumped up, looking around for the source of the commotion. Harry turned the doorknob, stepped into Umbridge's office, and closed the door behind him. He felt he had stepped back in time. The room was exactly like Umbridge's office at Hogwarts. Lace drapers, dollies, and dried flowers covered every available surface. The walls bore the same ornamental plates, each featuring a highly colored, berry-boned kitten gamboling and frisking with skiing cuteness. The desk was covered with a fluency flowered cloth. Behind Mad-Eye's eye, a telescope attachment enabled Umbridge to spy on the workers on the other side of the door. Harry took a look through it and saw that they were all still gathered around the decoy detonator. He wrenched the telescope out of the door, leaving a hole behind, pulled the magical eyeball out of it, and placed it in his pocket. Then he turned to face the room again, raised his wand, and murmured, "Accio Locket." Nothing happened, but he had not expected it to. No doubt Umbridge knew all about protective charms and spell. He therefore hurried behind her desk and began pulling open the drawers. He saw quills and notebooks and spell tape, enchanted paper clips that coiled snake-like from their drawers and had to be eaten back, a fussy little lace box full of spare hair bows and clips, but no sign of a locket. There was a filing cabinet behind the desk. Harry set to search in it, like Flitch's filing cabinets at Hogwarts. It was full of folders, each labeled with a name. It was not until Harry reached the bottommost drawer that he saw something to distract him from his search. Mr. Weasley's file. He pulled it out and opened it. Arthur Weasley, blood status, pure blood, but with unacceptable pro-Muggle leanings, known member of the Order of the Phoenix. Family, wife, pure blood, 7 children, two youngest at Hogwarts, NB youngest son, currently at home. Seriously ill, ministry inspectors have confirmed. Security status tracked. All movements are being monitored. Strong likelihood. Undesirable. Number 1 will contact. Has stayed with Weasley family previously. Undesirable number 1, Harry muttered under his breath as he replaced Mr. Weasley's folder and shut the drawer. He had an idea. He knew who that was, and sure enough, as he straightened up and glanced around the office for fresh hiding places, he saw a poster of himself on the wall, with the words "Undesirable number 1" emblazoned across his chest. A little pink note was stuck to it, with a picture of a kitten in the corner. Harry moved across to read it and saw that Umbridge had written to be punished. Angrier than ever, he proceeded to grope in the bottoms of the vases and baskets of dried flowers, but was not at all surprised that the locket was not there. He gave the office one last sweeping look, and his heart skipped a beat. Dumbledore was staring at him from a small rectangular mirror, propped up on a bookcase beside the desk. Harry crossed the room at a run and snatched it, but realized the moment he touched it that it was a mirror, not a mirror at all. Dumbledore was smiling wistfully out of the front cover of a glossy book. Harry had not immediately noticed the curly green writing across his hat. The Life and Lies of Albus Dumbledore, nor the slightly smaller writing across his chest by Ruta Skeeter, best-selling author of Armando Dippet, Master of Moron. Harry opened the book at random and saw a full-page photograph of two teenage boys, both laughing immoderately with their arms around each other's shoulders. Dumbledore, now with elbow-length hair, had grown a tiny wispy beard that recalled the one on Carm's chin that had so annoyed Ron. The boy who roared is silent amusement beside Dumbledore had a gleeful, wild look about him. His golden hair fell in curls to his shoulders. Harry wondered whether it was young Doge, but before he could check the caption, the door of the office opened. If Thickness had not been looking over his shoulder as he entered, Harry would not had time to pull the invisibility cloak over himself. As it was, he thought Thickness might have caught a glimpse of movement, because for a moment or two he remained quite still, staring curiously at the place where Harry had just vanished, perhaps deciding that all he had seen was Dumbledore's scratching his nose on the front of the book. For Harry hastily replaced it upon the shelf. Thickness finally walked to the desk and pointed his wand at a quill standing ready in the ink pot, and sprang out and began scribbling a note to Umbridge, very slowly, hardly daring to breathe. Harry backed out of the office into the open area beyond. The pamphlet makers were still clustered around the remains of the decoy detonator, which continued to hoot feebly as it smoked. Harry hurried off, up the corridor as the young witch said, "I bet it sneaked up here from experimental charms. They're so careless. Remember that poisonous duck?" Speeding back towards the lifts, Harry reviewed his options. It had never been likely that the locket was here at the Ministry, and there was no hope of bewitching its whereabouts out of Umbridge's while she was sitting in a crowded court.